Hi, students. I assume that you can see the screen. Just for a second confirmation, I assume that the screen is visible. Can I get a Y in the chat box, students, if you are able to see the screen? So today I am going to teach you the drafting techniques, how to draft an answer in the examination. So the area which I selected was forensic accounting, students. Now, students, if you observe, I told you this examination, how much ever you study the textbook, they won't ask you anything directly from the textbook. And I think Mr. Usman is very much aware about that, because this examination is not a textbook driven examination. This examination is very much thinking driven examination. So a person who is going for the exam should have a little bit of understanding of forensic accounting that was given in the pre-seen material. Now, students, before I start the question, I just want to give you an idea of what is forensic accounting. Now, students, forensic accounting is an accounting that is done for criminal investigations on financial frauds, like source document awareness, everything. And they present this data to the courts, and effectively the courts will make an order whether that is a fraud or not a fraud. So students, this is just involving with the intelligence also. Now students, if you observe, currently we don't have forensic accounting. Now, if you observe one thing, students, our current standard wise, most of our revenue comes from physical security. And as I told you, students, physical security is very challenging. The reason behind that is, students, it can be always automated. There can be CCTV cameras, there can be robots, or there can be cobots. So many things can come. And also the intelligence-led services effectively has a high level of growth, because day by day there is a growth in the intelligence-led services in the sector. Now, students, this is just a small question which I designed, but later on you will get a big question also. Now, SFA model is tested in the examination. Just keep in mind, they generally ask SFA model directly in the exam, directly, okay? And the risk is one important thing, students, because although you are a finance manager, in the examination, you are considered to be a risk manager. Understand it very well, students. In the examination, you are considered to be a risk manager. Now, students, if you observe the question, go through the question requirement first. Evaluate forensic accounting using SFA model on behalf of SAEFWELL. So students, I'll write down the heading first. Evaluation of forensic accounting. Evaluation of forensic accounting for SAEFWELL. For SAEFWELL. Evaluation of forensic accounting for SAEFWELL. Now, students, I believe this is very, very clear for you. And the percentage of marks they are giving is 60%. Now, I will teach you that also. Now, the second one is evaluate the risk involved in this project. So, students, can I write down here? Evaluation of the risk involved in the project. Evaluation of the risk involved in the project. Now, students, that is how many percent? Please tell me. That is 40%. I believe this is also very clear for the students. So the first thing is strategic evaluation. The second thing is risk evaluation. Now, whenever you go to the examination, try to make sure you filter out the headings first. So students, here, I'll just write it down for you so that it is very clear. So I'll just mention here, answering SCS question. Now, MCS and SCS, there's a huge difference. Answering SCS questions. First one, students, I'll write down here S1. That means step number 1, filter the requirement. Filter the question requirement. Filter the question requirement. Students, can I get a Y in the chat box, students? If you are okay with that, can I get a Y in the chat box? Filter the question requirement. Excellent. Now, students, understand that very, very, very well. Now, this paper, you have to be specifically focused on the question requirement only. Don't ever get stuck with the mock paper questions. Now, example, this question, what I teach you, you have to forget it as soon as the class is over, because there is no potential this question can come in the examination. Now, students, coming to this, Greg, that is the CEO, has sent you the following mail. The company has currently understood that it's better to ensure there is a shift in the service to intelligence-based security, since in the future there will be more potential revenue from the stream as well. Now, students, it is very practical and clear also, because he is slowly telling better to go to this because there is high level of revenue coming forward. The management is considering to provide the service of forensic accounting. Now, students, forensic accounting, it is more related to legal also. Legal factors are very, very important. Currently, there is no service to provide this service. I believe this service may have a great potential as well. So no one is providing this service also. So at the moment, this can be a potential as well. So evaluate forensic accounting using SFA model on behalf of SAEFWELL, and then evaluate the risk in this project. Now, reference material. In Balan, that is our country, there is a need for forensic accounting. Therefore, the management is very much concerned with moving ahead with forensic accounting as a service in the intelligence-led business function. Therefore, in that case, we have to perform an SFA analysis and a risk analysis considering this option. Therefore, the management is very much keen on your analytical review as well. Now, students, if you observe, this question is a small question, but in the exam, it will be bigger than this. But the ideology of this question is exam standard. It is exam standard, but only difference is it looks very small. But I purposely designed it just to make sure you build confidence step by step. Now, students, SFA analysis, I believe that you are aware. One is called suitability. Correct, no, students? Suitability. Then, students, what is the other one? F stands for feasibility, whether we can actually do it. And the final one is what, students? Acceptability. That is also the final one. Now, this is clear, SFA model. Now, the first thing is filter the question. Now, students, if you observe this 60%, now, students, I'll just give you a estimation only. It's estimation only, but you can write less and also score marks. It's not about the quantity, it's the quality. Now, let's assume, students, if they say 60% means, you can write 6 headings. That is the maximum. 6 headings in total. That is, for every 10%, you can have 1 heading. And as I told you, students, even in the first class, what we did, the introduction class, better write the answers in heading and then explain it in paragraph. That will make the examiner mark the answers easily. Now, students, you see the part B. Okay, the part B, if you observe, basic idea, it is 40%. So in that case, students, you have effectively write around 4 headings. Now, 4 headings, if you write in total, that is sufficient enough. But those 4 headings should be relevant to the reference material. That is for the question directly. It's not towards the situation. So can I get a double Y in the chat box, students, if you are fine with that, students? Because just understand, this is the standard. That means if you write 7 headings, you are wasting time. If you are writing for the part B around 6 headings, you are wasting time. That means 6 points. Develop 6 points and describe the 6 points. So I'll just write down here, develop a point. You have to understand the point and then describe it, students, and describe it. Or I can effectively say, instead of describing, discussion. Go for a detailed discussion, an argument type of answer. So can I get a Y in the chat box, students, if you are clear with this introduction, students, if you are clear with this introduction, because that is very, very, very important. Very, very, very important. Can you explain again about the 40%? That's why. Every 10%, it is 1 heading. So 40% means 40 divided by 10. 40 divided by 10 is 4. Now, suppose in the examination, if they give you 20%, the question requirement is 20%, 20 divided by 10 is 2. That means for this question, you have to only write 2 main key points in heading. And for that heading, you have to write a detailed discussion, an explanation with discussion. I believe that is clear for you at the moment. So this is how we have to plan the answer. Because you can't write around 5-6 headings for a 20% question, because you will not be getting any marks additionally. And also you may be losing a lot of time also. Okay. Now, students, evaluation of forensic accounting for SAEFWELL. Now, the first thing better to write is a basic introduction, about forensic accounting. So students, can I write down here what is forensic accounting? What is forensic accounting? What is forensic accounting? And for you understanding, I just mentioned, now forensic accounting, we are taking the ideology from the pre-SIM material. So I'm going to write down here. Forensic accounting involves rigorous process to support forensic audit. Now, students, I believe you are aware there is something called forensic audit also. So, students, where the accountant will effectively submit source documents and evidences as well in order to make sure there is a fraud detection and the evidences will be submitted to the courts for decision making. Full stop. Students, can I get a confirmation from you all in the chat box, students, if you are fine with this? Can I quickly get a confirmation from you all in the chat box? Now, that is a basic structure. Now, students, why I am saying is better to write what is forensic accounting is, if you give this idea, your suitability will be matching. So can I go forward, students? Can I get a confirmation? Now I need to go for suitability very much relevant to our organization. So the context. So can I write down here? The suitability. Now, first thing is context. The suitability is whether the strategy is connected to the business, is connected to the business, is connected to the business. The suitability is whether the strategy is connected to what, students? The business. So can I get a confirmation there? Because it should be connected to the business. And then I'm going to continue. For the SAEFWELL model of business, it is connected since we are providing intelligent-based security services. Now, students, I will continue. This will enhance the service portfolio. Since considering the nature of the business, in order to increase the revenue, we have to make sure there is a new service provided. And the last sentence, I will just write it so that it will be very easier for you all. Now, if you observe, students, I am connecting with the pre-SIM. Look at the way I am connecting. Now, students, Groba. Can I get a Y in the chat box if you can see this Groba facility, students? Can I get a Y in the chat box if you can see this Groba facility? Now, in the exam day, you have the information of Broto. Broto is already given, but Broto doesn't have any direct impact for us because we are leading. Correct, no, students? But if you observe the Groba facility, they are very far from us. The reason behind that means they may have better service portfolio. So I'll write down here, therefore, we can effectively compete with Groba, we can effectively compete with Groba in the near future. In the near future. Are you getting that point of view, students? So now this is the writing technique. Do you see I have used a color coding? Can I get a Y in the chat box, students? Can I get a Y in the chat box so that I will teach you how the structuralization of the paragraph is. Now for this question, students, it looks very simple. The reason why it looks very simple is SFA model, no, students, suitability, feasibility, acceptability. Now, in the next question, you don't have a heading like this. So in that case, students, you have to think and write. So what I will do is I'll just teach you a small technique using this table so that you will understand. Now, whenever you start, you have to write context. You have to write what, students? Context. That should be your first sentence. And I'll write down C. Now, students, context. Suitability is what is suitability? Okay, so I'll write down here context is in simple language, you have to write what is this? What is this? What is this? Correct now, students? And I'm not technically wasting your time. I'm just saying what is this? So can I get a confirmation from you all in the chat box, students, if you are getting the context properly, students? Because first thing is what, students? Context. And then the second one is application. That is A. So application, I can say, what is the relevance to our business? What is the relevance to our business? What is the relevance to our business? Our business is what, students? Safe well. Our business is safe well. Students, can I get a confirmation there? Now, do you see the first sentence I'm giving what is this? And second sentence is the application. What is the relevance of this to our business? And then, students, results. What can happen in the future? What can happen in what, students? The future. Students, this is very important on the exam day. What can happen in what, students? Future. Can I get a Y in the chat box, students? Especially from Usman, everyone, because if you are doing this for the paper, you are not writing futuristic point of view, means you are not getting marks, students. Understand it? And the last one is the lesson. Lesson. What will be ultimate outcome? That is the lesson. What we can reflect after this. So we call this as a Carl technique, students. Context, application, result, lesson. Because students, every business will reflect a business lesson from every action they do. That is post-completion audit, like that we say, but don't worry, we will effectively work on the other one. So students, I'm going for the feasibility. Can I get a confirmation from you all in the chat box, students, if I can go to the feasibility? But do you understand? I'm not complicating the answer. I'm making sure the examiner is understanding very, 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 very well. And look at the black color ink. The black color ink is the context. What is that? And other than that, the red, the light blue, and the dark blue, if you observe these three, these are the scoring points. So can I get a Y so that can we move to the feasibility, students? Because feasibility, I can effectively have 2 to 3 paragraphs or 2 paragraphs. The feasibility, now context. The feasibility is whether the company has sufficient resources, sufficient resources to implement a proposal, implement a business strategy, implement a business strategy. Now, in that case, students, what I'm going to write is for the company SAEFWELL, they have the financial resources to apply the forensic accounting. However, so they have that. That is clear now, students. So I'll just connect it. This is mainly because the business does not require much capital intensive investment. Considering the nature of operations. Students, can you remember? We don't have inventory, nature of operations. Now, students, can I continue this? Yeah, of course. So, context, application, then students, the results in the future. Okay, the results. Further, this can be a potential to make sure the business gets updated as well. Full stop. Now, students, a little bit context again. However, there needs to be human resource feasibility. That is a context. Since in the case of SAEFWELL, forensic accounting, now this is common sense. Forensic accounting can be done only through a chartered accountant. Therefore, currently, do we have chartered accountants? I don't think so. Do we have chartered accountants? Because students, accounting, forensic accounting, generally is done by chartered accountants. So that's a question I am writing. Now the results. So I'm going to connect it. Since this sector is more concerned with legal litigation, if there is incompetent staffs, there are situations where SAFEWELL may face legal issues. May face legal what, students? Issues. So I'll continue that. These legal issues may have a direct impact to the business model where other clients may consider the business is lagging competence. So that is one more point of view. So can I get a confirmation from you all in the chat box, students? Can I get a confirmation from you all in the chat box? So that is another perspective. Excellent. And the next thing, students, as I told you, this is related with the government, the legal factors. So what I will write down here is the next context is legal feasibility is always essential when there is regulations for a business. So there needs to be compliances followed to receive the license. That is also very, very clear. Now, students, that is context. Now I am applying that. For SAFEWELL, there needs to be a license to operate forensic accounting. Therefore, the company needs to make sure they have collected sufficient data for approving the license. Now see, these data is, I am thinking students. Now what I'm going to connect is, therefore, in case if there is no competent employees, we may not receive the license. We may not receive what, students? The license. And students, can I write down the last sentence? Therefore, this model will eventually result in a discontinuation, because if you don't get the license, students, you may have money, everything, but it will end up as a discontinuation. Full stop. So students, just to alter this, I'll just write down here. The first one is a heading called financial feasibility. Now, one thing I can just make sure I write down the heading. And the second one is, students, I'll write down here human resource feasibility. Because this is also very important, no, students, human resource feasibility. Because if you see service-led businesses, human resource is important. We may have money, but if we don't have humans, it will be an issue. And the other one is legal feasibility. Other one is legal feasibility. Again, the same logic that applies, because forensic accounting is not easy. We have to get the legal feasibility. Students, can I get a confirmation from you all in the chat box, students, if you are getting the style of writing, if you are getting the style of writing? Because students, you have to make sure it is futuristic. It is futuristic. You are writing it to the management, and management wants you to give the futuristic point of view. So I'm going for the acceptability, students. So I'll just write down the acceptability so that it is very, very easier for you all. Now, students, if you observe, in Balan, this is a new service. Therefore, in that case, there can be a premium amount charged for the service. And in the medium term, we can make sure we earn more profits, since later on there can be competitors. Later on there can be what, students? Competitors. Now, students, step by step, let's work on this so that it is very clear and easier for you all. So I believe this is very clear for you all. The acceptability, the main paragraph is very, very clear for you all. Now, students, let's continue this in more practical manner. So I'll write down here financial return, because now, students, if you observe, the board will effectively approve, then it's a financial return. In every business project, there is an expected return on investment. Correct, no, students? Expected return on investment. So I'll just connect it with SAEFWELL. For SAEFWELL, the shareholders may also need to ensure there is a return for them. There is what, students? A return for them in any strategic options, that is accepted. Considering, so I'll just write down, that is the context application. Now, the next one is, students, the results. Considering the demand and lack of service available, the potential, look at the word I'm using, potential return can be higher. Can be what, students? Higher. The potential return can be higher. In that case, there is high chances the shareholders may accept the project, full stop. Now the next one, I'll just continue that with heading called non-financial perspective. Every business will be concerned about non-financial perspective. About non-financial what, students? Perspective. Example, it can be reputation, legal factors, and also opportunity cost. And also what, students? Opportunity cost. Now, students, this is where you pass the examination. Can I get a Y in the chat box, students? This non-financial factor. If you have done exams previously, you itself ask yourself a question. By any chance, did you analyze the non-financial factor? Mr. Usman, are you understanding that? Because everyone will say the project is good, I am going to accept it. Correct? No. But only very few will also see the analysis of financial and non-financial perspective. Dixita, everyone, I believe you are understanding this aspect of non-financial perspective, students, because this is the strategic manner. This is the strategic application. You have to go through this and understand it very, very well, because this will determine the success and the failure of your thinking. So students, I'm going to continue so that it will be very, very easier for you all. In the context of SAEFWELL, in the context of SAEFWELL, the business model is highly sensitive. Business model is highly sensitive since in case of any service dilution, there is high chances the company will have to suffer a lot of reputational issues and sometimes legal issues such as legal issues such as suspensions. Such as what, students? Suspensions and what, students? Suspensions and what, students? Penalties also. So what I will do is, as a final touch, I'll just write down here. Considering this, we need to take some time to understand more in detail how the business is concerned. How the business is concerned. Students, are you understanding this? Can I quickly get a confirmation from you all in the chat box, students, if you are clear with this? Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much, students. Thank you very much, students. Now, students, now see this answer. You are getting the feeling now, students. This is very much not from book answer. It's like thinking. You are thinking and writing in your own. And first thing, you have to design yourself, I can say self-confidence. Now, self-confidence is very, very important in this paper. You can't go with that mindset. Am I writing right answer? No. You are working for a management. You have around 20 years experience. So you have to think to that. Evaluation of risk involved in this project or in the project. Now, students, the risk involved in this project, the first risk is, students, legal risk. I believe now you can understand. I am taking the heading out. One risk is legal risk. Correct, no, students? Legal risk. The second risk is, students, I can effectively say is competence risk. Competence of students risk. That is also one more thing. Agree, no students. One is legal risk, other one is competence risk. And the other risk, students, if you observe in this specific case, is I can effectively say is customer reliability, customer reliability risk. Now, students, I did not use the term reputation risk. I used the term customer reliability risk. Now, students, now reputation risk is general. Customer reliability risk is specific, or I can say it's into a client reliability. Students, now you use the term client, because clients, you want them, the reliability risk. They will lose the confidence in you. And the final one, students, I'll just write down here, financial risk. Now, financial risk is, students, this business is highly sensitive. Now, one sector of your service gets a negative impact, your other clients will panic and they may shift to another person. So students, are you clear with this evaluation of risk in this project? And if you have any risk, you can ask me, students, so you can put it into the chat box. But are you clear with the evaluation of the risk involved in this project? Are you clear with the evaluation of the risk involved in this project? Students, can I quickly get a confirmation from you in the chat box, students, if you are clear with the risk involved in this project? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, students, I'll write down the context. Legal risk is a risk based on litigations, fines, and suspensions. Full stop. Now, context. I completed my context. Now, students, I'm going to apply this. In forensic accounting, since the business is directly connected with the courts, there is high chances, within brackets I'll write down probability, so that it will be very much technical plus practical. Probability for, I will effectively say, high chance for SAEFWELL, where they don't comply with the rules. They don't comply with the rules. And then, students, this can result in clients suing the business or the courts suspending SAEFWELL. This can have a direct impact to the company as well. Since legal issues may create a speculation in the market whether the company is competent, whether the company is what, students? Competent, whether the company is competent. Students, I believe this is very, very practical at the moment. Now, competence risk. So I'll just write down here the next one. Skills are essential for intellectual based business. Skills are essential for intellectual based what, students? Business. Therefore, service quality is always based on the competence of employees. Correct, no, students? The competence of employees. Now, students, if you don't mind, if you observe in our financial accounts or in here, if you see students, if you see our CEO, if you observe, he is an auditor. Can I get a Y in the chat box, students? If you observe our CEO is an auditor, can I get a confirmation from you all in the chat box, students? Do you see here? He's a trained auditor from a large accountancy firm. Let's assume like EY, KPMG, something like that. Now, students, here you have to use your common sense when you're writing the answer. Because when you're writing the answer, you can't just simply say, just with the flow, you can write. You have to think also, students. So I believe that you have understood that perspective very, very well because he is a trained auditor. Now, in this case, I'll write down here, considering Greg, since he has expertise in audit, he can eventually make sure there are competent chartered accountants as well using his network. So I'll write down here, since there is an active leadership, this risk can be mitigated as well. So I'll write down here, therefore, there needs to be a leadership structure for this project in order to ensure there is a sustainability in this business. Students, can I get a confirmation from you all in the chat box if you got this competence risk? Are you clear with that, students? The competence risk. But you observe here, the answer doesn't look like bookish. Answer has little bit shifted towards the application of pre-seen. Students, can I get a Y in the chat box? Now, students who has passed MCS, please be very, very careful here. Here, my answers are changing. The structures are changing. The thinking is changing. I'm not just writing and going, students. I'm thinking and writing this. Now, students, slowly let's go to the client reliability risk. Since service industries operate based on trust, the client reliability is an intangible asset. The client reliability is an intangible asset. Intangible asset. Now, I'm going to continue this. SAFEWELL has effectively performed well in the business for a long time. Therefore, in case if they are moving to forensic accounting, they have to sustain this value. Correct, no, students? Application. The sustaining of this value can be based on, the sustaining of this value can be based on, the sustaining of this value can be based on rigorous training and proper internal controls. proper internal controls. Rigorous training and proper internal controls. So students, I am continuing this so that it is very easy. Therefore, there needs to be proper reporting with regards to the internal staff training process as well. Full stop. Financial risk. So students, I'll just write down the context. The financial risk is generally when the company is paying fines due to suspensions and also a drop in the share price due to speculations. Now, students, can I continue this? Yes. SAEFWELL has an equity beta of 0.8, and this can be a bit challenging when there are adverse events. For instance, loss of a court case due to poor accounting records done by SAEFWELL. That can happen. So I'll just continue. This can result in future loss of customers, future loss of clients. This can result in future loss of clients, and eventually the business may not have revenue as well. So I'll write down the final thing. Therefore, it is better to ensure the business is started in small scale. Business is started in small scale so that there can be learning in the initial process, in the initial period. Students, full stop. Can I get a confirmation from you all in the chat box, students? Are you all clear with the drafting answers, students? Because you see, I am different. I believe Taxila, everyone is observing these answers because this is very, very, very different, students. Very, very different from MCS students. Please be careful, students. It's not like the MCS. You can pass MCS, you can pass OCS. But when it comes to SCS, you are a senior manager. And your writing is purely based on thinking. Students. So I will go for the one-to-one discussion because even in our next class, which will be on Friday, I will be discussing again a question. On Sunday onwards, I will give you time to practice question by your own. But initially, I am giving you time so that you can learn it by yourself. So I'm going for the question answer session. Dixita, any questions for the day? Anna, madam, any questions for the day? Mr. Ibzal, any questions for the day? Mr. Khalid, any questions for the day? Rahul, any questions for the day? Mr. Raj, any questions for the day? Ms. Taxila, any questions for the day? Mr. Usman, any questions for the day? Miss Dixita, again, any questions for the day? So students, I am just making sure that you are getting the clarity here, students, because clarity is very, very important. How do we end at end? There is nothing like that because it's a question. No need to have conclusion. Just write the headings. This is fine. So students, I assume that you are understanding how this is very clear for you all. So thank you very much, students. So I will meet you in the next class. Take care, students. Take care, students.